Hello, y'all. Grown black folks talk. When Kyrie Irving messed around, and a whole bunch of people are now going to have to find out. I have been making versions of this video for several days, and of course, developments kept on happening and kept on happening and kept on happening. However, one of the most important developments is not what you think it is. Breaking news. Of course, we know that Kyrie Irving has been suspended, and I'll talk about how that happened shortly. But the most important news for the Black community was brought to light by YouTuber Alton Johnson. So, credit to Mr. Alton Johnson for having found a picture of the documents necessary, where it clearly says that the Anti Defamation League has updated its terrorist list and has put the entire Hebrew Israelite sect on that list. Roll that around in your mind for a moment. The Anti Defamation League, one of the most powerful institutions in this country that you probably never heard about before this, has equated the Hebrew Israelite sect with the KKK as an existential threat to Jewish people. Roll that around in your mind. I'm going to say it a third time with additional information. The Anti Defamation League has put the Hebrew Israelite sect in a position where if you know anything about the last 20 years and what happened to people who were in the axis of evil, according to George W. Bush, and what happened to people from those countries and what happened to their assets, if the Anti Defamation League can convince the United States government that a certain group of Black people is dangerous, the Hebrew Israelite sect is in that, their members are in that level of imminent danger. See, Kyrie Irving messed around, and now a whole bunch of Black people are going to have to find out. Okay, this is a good time for me to talk about Kyrie's tweet. So many people are talking about, well, all he did is tweet. He didn't write the book. He didn't write the documentary. When you say that, people like me who handle real business are going to be very gentle and say, okay, well, I need to do some education. Other people are going to say you're dishonest or you're just stupid. I'm going to actually educate you. How many times have you seen, as a Black person, have you seen markets promoted, even political ideas promoted through entertainers and athletes? Those are our main influencers. How many times have you seen it? How many times have you purchased something because your favorite celebrity or athlete purchased or recommended it to you? If you know anything about affiliate marketing, the whole point of affiliate and influencer marketing is to get someone who already has the following of 1,000 or 2,000 or several 100,000 people to promote something for you, because there are a million products being sold, but they can just sit there and just sit there. Like I'm doing my, low content book ad test right now. Without ads, I see people who have done the same thing that I have, and their stuff is getting like one sale a month. And then you look at the people that are getting hundreds of sales a month, and you realize the difference has to be they did their keywords and they did some promotion and advertising. So let's go back to Kyrie Irving, a man who has thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people following him on Twitter. He wants to sit up there and act like he just didn't do anything because he didn't write it. He's acting dumb. The man's in his 30s. I think he's 30 even. He, with the kind of money he has, surely understands how, well, at least we hope so, understands how the internet works and how influencers like him can make a great deal of money as influencer marketers. If he does not know that, then he's not worth all the attention that people give him as being an intelligent, in tune man. So he's gonna sit up there and act dumb like he hasn't done anything. He has taken a amount of anti-Jewish propaganda that is inaccurate, which even he himself admitted, and has now promoted it to hundreds of thousands of people. And he wants to sit there and act innocent. And that's why the ADL and Adam Silver, he had another reason to be mad. See, when Adam Silver said, I'd like to meet with you, Kyrie Irving sent his parents. Do you know what happens when you act like you 3 instead of 30 and you're a Black man in America, but for 360 years you were called boy, but you sent your parents to do a man's job? You know what Adam Silver did right after that? Because that's what any man would do. Okay, boy, you sent your parents. Okay, let me show you what a man's gonna do when you disrespect him. That's how he got suspended. And see, That doesn't bother me because that's what was supposed to happen to him. There's a lot of stuff about Kyrie Irving's opinion of himself that a Jew or a Christian would find blasphemous. I'm not going to go into it. Not here. Not now. Because Kyrie Irving is no longer even the problem. The problem is he has now passed the problem downstream for thousands of people. And see, this is the thing about Black men in prominence. Not all, but a lot, who have been acculturated in the last 50 years where their own lives are not valuable except as how they have physicality to be able to do certain performance aspects, whether it be on the court or on the stage or in the bed. And of course, if they do not see their full human value, they do not see the value of women and children. It is very easy for a man like that to go out there and do, who's been acculturated that way, to go out there and do things that pass problems down the line to innocent men, women, and children. If you know anything about the history of Black movements, you know that what you do not want to do, if you truly believe in the smack that you are selling, it is not what your ego is just doing today. You don't want to put an organization that you agree with in the way of getting a terrorist designation. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that back to 1804. When Haiti had its revolution, the European powers and the United States agreed together to shut them out of the economy. The Black movements of the 60s and the 70s were infiltrated and destroyed. And of course, Paul Robeson could tell you in the 1950s, and anybody who went through McCarthyism, that what people also sometimes choose you to do to you is economic strangulation. And then they make it impossible for you to leave. The State Department will snatch your passport. Now, the tragedy of life for Black people is as follows. I wish the FYSBM men had told Kyrie Irving, look, as much money as you have, there's still one thing that can go wrong. If you make that terrorist list, extraordinary rendition is a thing. Check 21 is a thing. Imagine being declared a terrorist and not being able to ever cash a check again in the entire United States of America, ever in your life. Imagine having your passport snatched so you can't leave. This kind of thing has actually happened to Black people. Paul Robeson avoided having his assets seized, in addition to his passport being taken from him because he was complimentary to Joseph Stalin once upon a time. He said at the meeting, he said, "I'm not concerned about you worried about me worrying about the communist Russia when your people have killed millions of mine, many, many more." He was correct. He had to give his money to his friends so that when they seized his bank accounts, they didn't get his money. But people know that you're doing that in the 1950s. So what they're going to do now is declare your whole organization a terrorist organization so that you have nowhere to go. This is the this is the existential level of the problem Kyrie Irving has created for Black men, women, and children by running his mouth. Now, I'm not going to get up here and get involved in the argument because I actually know enough history so that this whole argument is stupid to me. We know that the Jews were scattered around the world multiple times. So there are Jews and there are people who became Jews by religion everywhere they went, because if you read in the book of Daniel or Nehemiah, you understand there were faithful Jews who were excellent witnesses for the Most High God. And in fact, Jeremiah told them to say, the gods that were made under the heavens shall perish from out from under the heavens, because there's only one true and living God, the maker of heaven and earth. So Jeremiah, the prophet, taught Jewish people who were faithful how to witness to other people. And Daniel was so good, he managed to bring in Nebuchadnezzar. That's in Daniel chapter 3, or 4, Daniel chapter 4. So Mordecai was able to be prime minister. Daniel was able to be prime minister. Nehemiah was a cupbearer. So we know that these servants of the Most High God did so well that the Magi, who were from Persia, remember we talked about Persia, ended up being able to come and find who they believed was the Messiah. They did that well. So there are people of all ethnicities who are Jewish from around the world. It's not just the Jews in Europe. All you have to do is study some history. There are many people who come to the Jewish faith, and among them, if you remember the Queen of Sheba and Solomon, many people in Ethiopia. So much so that the Bible even mentions the fact that Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands to God. So many people had come to the knowledge of true and living God in Ethiopia at the time of Isaiah that this was a thing. So, yes, there are Black Jews. They have been for a long time. They're Ashkenazic and they're Sephardic Jews. So there's no point in arguing this. And people have a right to believe what they want. But when you decide to forward false information that is anti Jewish propaganda, let me put you another way history that you do not know. If black people are Hebrew, all of us, you know that we were in the Holocaust too, then, because you don't know about the 300,000 Africans who were killed as part of the Holocaust. So again, you deny your own history if that's the case. So either just accept it, or you're throwing yourself into the pile as well by going along with Kyrie Irving. But like I said, Kyrie Irving's got what he deserves. Because again, if he does not understand at 30 years old that you don't send your parents to a meeting with your boss, and if he does not understand what an influencer he is and what he did and refuses to take responsibility, exactly what's supposed to happen to him has happened. Period. But the problem is he messed around and a whole bunch of other people are now going to have complication in their life they don't need to have. How hard do you think it's going to be for the Anti-Defamation League to be able to convince the United States government that black people are a problem and that they need to be CIA'd, FBI'd, infiltrated, and destroyed? How hard do you think that's going to be? Now, if you are a Hebrew Israelite listening to this, even though I absolutely refuse to engage in that argument you want to engage in, no, this is not going to happen because as a Christian, I don't have to. I'm in Christ. The Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, talks about, and in his name, speaking of the Jewish Messiah, shall the Gentiles trust. I belong in that group of people who is grafted in. Therefore, having accepted Christ as my Savior and also a Jewish Messiah, I'm good. However, since I also worship the Most High God, and I actually have studied the entire Bible, I've actually read it several times. Some of y'all need to pick up on do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. Walk humbly with thy God. Micah 6:8. It's the law and the prophets. Some of y'all need to pick up on that from your online and in-person behavior that I have encountered. Some of y'all need to pick up on that walk humbly business. Because just like if you're going to obey the commandments, obey all of them. But be that as it may, as a servant of the Most High God, I can tell you where you need to read. Proverbs. You got to learn how to handle your personal economy. You got to learn how to handle your collective economy after you manage your personal economy. And you got to have the wisdom to not be picking fights with people who can take a man who has $1.5 billion in one day and 400 million and bring him to 400 million in a week. You got to learn how not to do that. You got to learn how not to follow people that are given to change. You got to learn all this in the Proverbs. You got to learn how not to talk about people that are full of themselves. All that's in the book of Proverbs. You don't follow the Most High, follow the Most High. Proverbs can save your life because you're going to need to form a strong internal economy so that your children have a chance at life. Your children haven't created any of these problems. Most of you haven't created this problem. But it'll be perfectly easy if you are poor now, you not being able to get out is going to be your children too, for all the yelling and screaming y'all do about the 616 commandments, but you haven't read the book of Proverbs and you haven't read the book of Micah. Your children will be lined up to be taken to prison to make money for the very same people you're complaining about because you were not able to do the things necessary to get them out of poverty. Because even if the Anti-Defamation League can't convince the entire U.S. government under the Biden administration to do what they want done, although really that's not that hard. Joe Biden loves putting laws together to put black people in jail. They have friends who see the thing about Jewish men They are not like black men. They are not going to have, they did not, most of the Jewish men that we know in this country did not come from hundreds of years of being persecuted in Europe, even before the Holocaust, to let that happen here. So they have gotten to make sure that they have gotten to positions where they can make sure that if you attempt to push certain lines and things, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. They're not going to have that. Black men don't think like that. They think about, let me get up there and have my little ego show and find out that now that I'm a highly paid employee, let me go boss up against these people. I'm like, Kyrie, you didn't learn from Kevin Durant that you just an employee and you can't have your way. We watched that foolishness all summer. And by the way, y'all, this for free. Wait for it. By the way, there is a negotiation in terms of the owners and the players coming up in 2024. Kyrie Irving is the vice president of the Players Association. So you got Chris Paul, who I believe is the president, out here stunting on, with Devin Booker getting stunted on by Luka Doncic, a European, after they just got out there and were just all arrogant and thought they were just going to run things and mocking a white boy player. And then got the floor mopped with them. And they got a picture now of Luka Doncic and the official giving each other dap. Now we have Kevin Durant all summer trying to find out if he, with his $192 million prospect, could boss up on Joe Tsai. By the way, y'all, Joe Tsai is not a white man, nor is he Jewish. The Asian men ain't gonna play this either. You got Chris Bridges and his son talking about daddy wasn't being nice to mama and all the rest. Is it Chris or is it Miles? Mr. Bridges, I think it is Chris, out here getting caught up. So when the owners and the players do their contract in 2024, and notice the constant drumbeat, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a tremendous player. I have nothing against him. Luka Doncic can play. Nikola Jokic has been MVP 2 years in a row. They could all play. A whole bunch of other people with these wonderful European names. They went back there and got Dirk Nowitzki. And if you look at Nowitzki, if you look online, Larry Bird's videos are making a comeback. People talk about Bird was better than Jordan. So you got Kyrie and Kevin doing stupid stuff. And this contract's coming up when the owners are going to come together. And you have Adam Silver out here doing what he's doing right now, and all this line about these European players. See, when you mess around and everybody you're associated with, because Kyrie Irving is the vice president of the Players Association, if I remember correctly, everybody downstream from him is going to have to find out when these owners come back and like, oh, you thought y'all were going to do that. Watch us replace y'all real quick. We will never let black men have this kind of power again. When you have Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Stephen A. Smith being paid well to humiliate the next generation of players, day after day after day after day, Kyrie Irving's just going to just added more fuel to the fire. And got a whole group of black people that had a right to believe what they want to believe, designated as a terrorist group in this country, running his mouth, messed around. A whole bunch of other people gonna have to find out. Messed around as the vice president of the Players Association, and everybody downstream from him and Chris Paul is gonna have to find out. In closing, again, everybody just read the book of Proverbs and learn how to handle your life. And if you're a Christian, you can ask the Holy Spirit to help you. But everybody read the book of Proverbs, because Most High is not out here putting curses on the people necessarily. Obedience is always going to be an option. Wisdom is always going to be an option. But the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's important. But more generally, it is very dangerous. And see, if you don't understand why black women are choosing to divest in various ways, this video should have made it very clear, because it is extremely generous to be downstream from men with a microphone who have limited socio-political, social, political, and religious understanding. It is extremely dangerous for black people because we are not judged as a group. more powerful groups of men, how they move is because, like I said, Paul Robeson gave his money to his friends, and that's how he was able to keep the money he had made before all that happened. Well, that was noted that he got out of that. That's never going to happen again. Check 21 is a thing. It's been a thing since 2001. All your friends and associates getting snapped up when you in a sect and you feel like you only can really hang around people in your sect and your whole sect gets put on a list, there's nowhere for you to put anything. And this is the danger that following people who are loud and egotistical, but and will sit up there and play dumb about basic business stuff and send their parents to meetings because they ain't grown enough to handle their own smack. When you're downstream from men like this, life becomes dangerous and it has nothing to do with what you did, which is why we have to stop it. People all talk about, I support Kyrie. Well, you go ahead and do that into economic oblivion. Not over here. I wouldn't have even bothered with this, except that the Hebrew Israelite people that I have known personally, do I disagree with them? Yes, I do. Do I want to see anything bad happen to them? No, I do not. But they're in existential danger that they were in on Thursday because of one ego driven, playing dumb black man who just happens to be able to handle a basketball well. And people are, well, this isn't black women's fight. No, there are black women and children who are part of Hebrew Israelite who are going to get caught up in this mess. When you see foolishness, get away with it. Get away from it. Because you think you're going to get away with it, but you're not. You're not. Kanye West and Kyrie Irving can take what money they have left and go anywhere else in the world. You can't. Unless, of course, you're out here listening to Stephanie Perry, Sheeta's on the loose, uh, Piggy Girl travels the world, black women making money, Mocha Mommy, black women making building wealth. Unless you're listening to them, and for you gentlemen, there are some men who are out here making a better future for themselves that not involve just going abroad to fornicate. SPK Network and Four Cycles of Life. Kareem did a great set of videos on his trip to Ghana, and it was beautiful, and I followed it. It was beautiful. You cannot afford to follow people that can leave you in the mess while you suffer and die in it. It's life or death. Stop giving your attention to people that want to make a mess and have no responsibility, no sense of responsibility. You will die out here. Now, I hope nothing else happens that makes me have to say anything else about this. I usually do not even let myself come on camera upset, but there was no way to calm down from this because this is the most ridiculous. This is the first time anybody that I've talked about has put people in the way of being locked by the thousands in the permanent underclass, having complications that are going to come into their life that may well cause them to get killed. The FBI does not come in raiding you just pity pat, tic tac toe. No, that's not what happens. Go back and look at the 60s and the 70s and what happened to a lot of these black organizations and their members. And a whole bunch of people are going to get put in the way of that because Kyrie Irving wants to run his mouth and doesn't know how to do an apology for having passed along false information to thousands of other people. This ain't cool, y'all. I'm not cool with it. I usually wait till I've calmed down a lot more, but no, today y'all need to see this is a problem. And I need you to really pay attention to who you pay attention to. You can be a six-figure or a nine-figure employee and you don't have a chance against the real capitalists of this country. Stop listening to people that make messes for you. Stop following them. Stop being, oh, I support so and so. No. You about to have stuff come into your life you do not need and your children do not need in their lives. You have been warned. All right. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your Sunday. Keep in mind what I said. You have been warned. Thank you for listening.